When will the Boston Celtics make a big move, a big trade? That is the question. That is the question I have for this Boston Celtics team. Obviously, they acquired Evan Fournier at the deadline for 2 second-round picks that are in 2025 and 2027. You really can't go wrong with that. Evan Fournier is a quality player. He is a rental, of course, and is going to be a free agent at the end of the season. But to acquire a player of his caliber for the playoff run for that low of a price fits right into the trade exception. You can't really be too mad at that. But I've commented on this before. Boston had so many assets that they've kind of now gotten at the back end of from that absolutely horrendous if you're a Brooklyn fan, or great if you're a Boston Celtics fan, absolutely horrendous Kevin Garnett Paul Pierce trade that they acquired so many extra first round picks from and so many more extra assets. And of course that allowed them to get Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. That I commend them. But outside of that, when they haven't had a top 3, top 4 pick, their picks haven't been great. Robert Williams might end up being something here, and Peyton Pritchard might be decent. But that was their own pick anyways. And they've made some questionable picks that haven't exactly amounted to a lot. Romeo Langford obviously has potential. He's very much showed some injury problems and hasn't been great so far. Aaron Naismith I haven't seen too much from yet. Grant Williams is a decent bench player, but nothing more than that. They've already cut now Brad Wanamaker, a former first-round pick, who was a decent, although not great, backup point guard. And so my question is with this Boston team. They have a strong core. They have Jaylen Brown, they have Marcus Smart, they have Jayson Tatum. Kemba Walker obviously is not the point guard he once was. There's no doubt about that. But he still looks decent piece, although no doubt an overpay on his current contract that he's going to be on for the rest of this year and another 2 years, assuming that he will most definitely opt into his player option. But this team needs to make some moves to retool their pieces around their core to be able to be a contender, because as currently constructed, this team is not a contender. They're just not. But they have the core pieces to be there. Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown is a formidable duo to build around. But they either need to get that third guy, or they need to retool this roster to be able to have better depth and better surrounding pieces that fit into those two guys' play style. And I think the hope was that Kemba Walker was going to be that third guy. But he just hasn't been. He just hasn't been. He hasn't been anywhere near as good of a player as he was in Charlotte. He's now 30 years of age. He's had some injury issues. And his production just isn't where it used to be. There's no doubt about it. He's in a reduced role for sure, so that obviously isn't helping. But his efficiency's down as well from 3 and from the field while in a reduced role. That's just not something you should be seeing. And it's not something you would have expected at the age of 30. You would have thought you would have gotten a few more good years out of him, and that really hurt. Of course, they signed Gordon Hayward to a deal a few years ago, in which he got injured for a large part of that, so that didn't help as well. But this team has had so many assets, so many first-round picks. They could have made a trade to acquire a third star. They could have made a trade to fit the pieces better. And we probably wouldn't be having this discussion as much if Kemba Walker was better. But let's be real, Kemba Walker, even if he was still playing as good as at the same level, was still going to be the third option on this team. And Kemba Walker isn't necessarily a creator. He is a point guard, but he is a scoring point guard. If you had a creator on this team would be different. 100%. I think this team would arguably be a better team with someone like Dennis Schroeder. Someone who's more of a creator. Someone who's still a decent scorer, and someone who actually gives good defense, because Kemba Walker is fairly useless at the defensive end. It's just the way it is. And that's been a struggle for this Boston team this year. This Boston team is known to be a very good defensive team. They're not in the top half, or just barely in the top half of defenses for most of the season. And that's not typical of them, and that's not due to the personnel. Because if you look at that starting lineup, the only guy who can't defend out there is Kemba Walker. Everyone else should be good at defense. Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, Robert Williams, given Smart, Brown, and Tatum respectively have all missed significant time this year. There's no reason this team shouldn't be a top half defensive team consistently, if not top 10. And they just haven't been. It's been a lack of effort on the defensive end, a lack of just want to defend and will to win, along with some some poor play from Kemba Walker throughout the season. The Tristan Thompson contract has come back to hurt them, which ultimately made them have to trade away Daniel Tice at the deadline to get below the luxury tax so that they didn't get hit on the repeater tax, I believe is what the cap details were on that. They've really just put themselves into a bad scenario from a fee contract standpoint, their depth, and the motivation from the team just doesn't seem there this season. Defense is effort, is motivation, and it just isn't there. And this is a Boston team I really like. I really like Jaylen Brown. I really like Jayson Tatum. As much as Marcus Smart gets a lot of hate, and even though I am a Toronto Raptors fan, I really like Marcus Smart, minus when the Raptors play Boston. But the team is just missing something. It really is. It's missing something to get them to that next level. And I would have thought that this team would have been able to get there by now with all of the significant assets that they've had and that core of Brown and Tatum, but they just haven't. And this year has arguably looked like they're worse in a while. I know COVID, the virus, and all these other implications, but every other team has dealt with it, and comparative to other teams, I still just don't see it, even when they've been healthy. Miami, when healthy, have shown signs. Toronto, when healthy, have shown signs, even though these teams haven't necessarily played great. From Boston, and even when healthy, it's just been all over the place. There's been no consistency, there's been no consistent effort on the defensive end. It's been a very up and down season for this team, even when healthy and when you would think they should be playing well against opponents they should be beating. And I hope for their sake that they can pull it together, but I think the front office has mismanaged some of the assets they've acquired over the years from that Brooklyn Nets trade, minus the Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown picks, which obviously great picks. But when you have a couple of top 3 picks, you hope that you can get a couple of high caliber players. I'm not going to make it sound like the front office found some steals and got 2 all-star caliber players late in the first round. If you have 2 third overall picks, you should end up with 2 high caliber players. Now, it doesn't always work out that way, but it should. That's your job. Your job is to be able to find that high caliber talent, and if you got a top 3 pick, you should be finding that talent. And so Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, great picks. But outside of that, they haven't picked very well, at least up to this point. Robert Williams remains to be seen if he can stay healthy. But he looks to definitely have some talent. And Peyton Pritchard potentially as well. But again, Robert Williams and Peyton Pritchard were late first-round picks. They were Boston's picks. They were not assets from the Brooklyn trade. And those is what were mismanaged outside of their 2 high picks. They've had so many extra first-round picks. I don't know how many it is, but I'm sure they've had at least 4 or 5 extra first-round picks. Even if those include the Brown and Tatum trades, there's no reason that a couple of firsts couldn't have been packaged to build around Brown and Tatum. But I really get the sense that they've just drafted and occasionally used free agency to try and build around Brown and Tatum when they've had the assets to try and improve in the trade market. Danny Ainge has been involved, but typical Danny Ainge in the last few years has not been willing to pull the trigger on anything big, and ultimately that could be the reason why this Boston Celtics team never gets a title with Brown and Tatum. That being said, I hope that changes, and for Boston fans, let me know down below what your guys' thoughts are, what you guys think your issues are with the team. You guys would certainly know better than me. But I'm just curious to hear, because I'd love to see this Boston team be a contending team in the next couple of years. I think Brown and Tatum deserve that as good of a duo as they are, and I think they're a good enough duo to be able to do that in their primes. But there needs to be another tweak with the roster, and Danny Ainge needs to be able to get a little bit more aggressive, in my opinion. If you guys did enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one.